yeah, what happened? She goes, you crashed. So I just thought I spun or maybe hit something and said, is the car okay? And she goes, son, there's nothing left of the car. And I'm like looking around, holy So how much more of a street car can you get? That makes 2,600 wheel with a manual transmission, air conditioning, power steering, all that stuff. That's what I would call a street car. Like you said, there's only like 2,400 Gen 5s built, and like we've turboed over 200 of them.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Minnoxide podcast. I'm your host, Harris, aka Minnoxide, man of many automotive aspirations, and I'm here with my Ford-loving co-host, Dan.
Yep.
Mr. Gunna Garage.
I still don't feel as much as enemy territory as last night, but yeah.
Dude, yesterday we were doing a podcast, and it was literally all Camaros, like staring him down. It was like a terrible.
Hey, where'd you guys go?
The
Accelerated
Racing Solutions.
Yeah.
Did you say race ski?
No, I was gonna say Racing Solutions, then you took over.
Yeah, it's okay. Those guys were awesome. That was almost a 3-hour episode. So
wow.
Yeah, that was fun. But today we are here with Calvo Motorsports, janitor at Calvo Motorsports,
I'm the
Antonio
janitor
Calvo. Yeah, I just feel like every shop owner, that's what they put.
Jaime slave.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we got connected, man. We've been kind of chatting for a while. Justin White got us introduced. And I mean, you know, obviously we had Aaron from Nth Moto on, so it's obvious to get the other
Viper shop.
I mean, at the end of the day, right, and I have to be careful on how I phrase this, but like when people think twin turbo Vipers, on any TikTok, any Instagram post, everybody's like, is that a Calvo? Right? And I think that's just kind of what it comes down to. And what do you think is the reason that everybody thinks of you first, I guess? At least with common social media.
I think what happened was, first off, Aaron is like awesome. Him and I are buddies. We chit chat. His business model was very different than my business model. And actually, to be honest, I'm kind of envious of his business model. What we did was we went more for the street race guys, you know, the YouTubers, the McRippins, and what that really brought me. It brought a ton of business. Like from a business standpoint, it was great. But what it also brought me was a bunch of people that aren't true car enthusiasts or not true racers. And I mean that in the nicest sense about like, you know, this hybrid of, I want a 3,000 horsepower street car that has air conditioning, goes like fucking sub 260 to 130, you know, the draggy wars and all this other like, you know, and never, you know, not have to refresh it for 20,000 miles because there's these people like Sissio now that offers a lifetime warranty, which is, I mean, probably the worst jump or worst marketing ploy in the history of one of these businesses, because how can you warranty something you did not build, right? Like, the new GT4 RSs, they're all having cam bolt snap, and it smokes the motor, right? So how do you warranty that? Like what happens now? The Lambo V10 engines are awesome, right? But what happens if a lifetime warranty? What happens if that customer puts 100,000 miles and smokes it? You know, like, or it just wears out, or a wastegate line breaks, or you know what I'm saying? Like
it
all
turns
these
into this pointing game, kind of.
Yeah, but how do you warranty something with a lifetime warranty? But back to the Nth Moto me stuff, like I think I was more vocal on social media. You know, it was my first business. I was trying to, you know, grab as much business as I could, and what I wound up getting was more like YouTubers, Instagram guys, this, that, and like listen, some of them are lifelong friends, but like, you know, that is kind of the audience, and they more or less ran with the brand and pushed it that way. You know, Aaron is actually really fortunate. He has some really good customers that are like true car enthusiasts. You know, to name a few off the top of my head, you know, Vijay, Will Dugas, Adam, you know, Minneapolis Mopar. Those are guys that like really will just listen to Aaron and understand like what they're doing and what needs to be done. Like, hey, we are way past the point of a sequential in life. Like, you need to put a turbo 400 in it. Cool, done. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have guys that don't want to put turbo 400s because they don't like the way the turbo 400 sounds. They want the pops and bangs of, you know, sequential shifts and this, that. It's like, well, you want that, but you also want 3,000 horsepower, and then you cry when the transmission breaks, right? Like, a sequential was designed for road race applications, right? We are way past, and all these sequential companies are now trying to really kind of reinvent the wheel to build a sequential that will hold, but at the end of the day, like, a Turbo 400 has been around since what, the 1940s, 1950s, and it's like, it's every bit of like just over-engineered redneck engineering that works. It's funny. I was talking to Tony Palo because we put a Turbo 400 in the General. We're just stator stuff. Like, we swapped like 4 stators in it and couldn't get it to flash where we wanted it to, off the trans brake. And I was like, man, we were just talking one day, Tony and I, and he goes, dude, it took me a year to get the fucking TH400 working in Night Fury right. And I'm like, because it didn't have a button on a laptop. I was joking around with Tony, and he's like, dude, it's like it's got like 9 moving parts in it, and yet like, we can't get this thing to work in the most rudimentary thing because we're used to technology. I don't want to say the Pro Mod guys aren't, but like their technology is just really coming in. I'm going to say like the last 10 years, right? Like everything's been like mechanical fuel injection, screw blower, just let it fucking eat as much as you can and figure out traction from, suspend, like mechanical grip. Everything's very mechanical versus very technological, but yeah, that's kind of the thing I would say why it's a blessing and a curse, but why I think we have like that Viper stronghold market.
Well, you guys have a different approach to things too then as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, like there's many ways to skin a cat, At the end of the day, like I was saying, me and Aaron over the last 2 years have been a lot closer than we have in the past. Like we have these 2 customers, they live down in Corpus, they're buddies, right? They're both farmers. One's my customer, one's his customer.
Okay.
Right? So when we go racing, like they both come, Aaron comes and he hangs out in our camp, or like at TX2K, we were across the street across the way from each other. Like we were grilling food, having some drinks and everything at night. Like, hey, come on over, hang out with us or whatever. And, there's more of a camaraderie, I think, there now. But, yeah, I think it's tough to like say how I do my thing a certain way, he does his thing a certain way. And, without going into too much detail about like our engine programs and things like that, they're 2 totally different things, and they both work really well.
Well, at the end of the day, right? Like you both make some really fast fucking cars.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what you're doing here at the end of the day, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, you're not and I talked about this with Aaron, you're dipping into a pool of like a limited supply of vehicles, right? There's only so many made, and they're not making them anymore.
No, and parts are becoming very like OEM parts. I've road raced my ACR for like the last 5 years, and we're discussing this I think at lunch yesterday. Road racing is really hard on cars. Stuff melts, breaks, you wear fender liners out, things like that, and it's like I ordered front fender tubs and rear fender liners and that little mouthpiece that goes in there. It was $7,000, and I waited like I think 11 months for it. It's like I don't want to have a car that's I have a 1 of 6 red and white stripe. Like it sucks. I don't want to have another Viper to build that I need to go road racing. I want to road race my ACR, but it's like it's just not. I don't want to fuck that car up and not be able to fix it.
Right. Well, I don't know. I've seen some cars pretty far apart in here. I feel like there's not much that can be done, and you're not going to be able to fix it.
Yeah, the drag and drive cars, definitely.
Yeah.
So that's going to be that customer right there. There's that white and silver stripe car back there. And then there's 1 or 2 others that I don't think are in this room, but those are the guys that are like kind of the true racers that want to just go fast and don't care about like, hey, I want to listen to my radio while I'm in the staging lanes, like and it's hard to like tell the guys that used to have like really fast cars 3 years ago that their car isn't fast anymore, and it's just not going to be fast unless they change something, and they just don't want to. Like the sequential stuff, like the motors, the rear ends, turbo systems, all that like is down pat, obviously proven, but man, it sucks when every 3 passes you have to swap a transmission, you know?
What's where did the love and passion for Vipers come from? Did you start with one and with Deacon with it, or how did you fall into that market?
No, so I opened my shop and I had a black 97 Supra that made like 1500 wheel, and I like grenaded the transmission. And this was like back in 2013. And you couldn't get V160 parts. They like did not make them anymore. And people were asking like $12,000 for a fucking used V160. And like the whole Tremec conversions weren't out yet. And I was doing production work for Powerhouse Racing, and Ross Baird was like, I have a brand new Get Rag sitting upstairs. He's like, I'll give it to you. And he, Ricky Crossley, I guess, like curb checked a Gen 2 Hefner car that he had, and it slightly bent the frame. So they totaled it out, and Ross bought it back from him. They parted it out, I guess, whatever. And then Ross had this shell that they swapped frames in. He bought a new frame and put his frame in it. And he said, I'll buy the turbos. I have an intercooler core ready. I have wastegates and blow-off valves. You buy the material and you build out the turbo kit, and I'll give you the transmission. Right. So I took the car home with me, and the transmission was home that day, and we built that car. Ross did the motor in it. Him and his son put the car together. I did the turbo system, all that stuff. And like the car's, I think, first pass, and this is like, it was at some Texas Speed Syndicate event at Baytown, like just some Saturday open track thing. First pass went 770 at like 186 miles an hour.
Holy shit.
And this is in 2013, like 12 years ago. And next thing I know, I had like 3 or 4 of them show up to the shop, and then you start like looking at the cars, and you're like, man, these things are like giant piles of shit, right? They're like flux core, MIG welded tube fucking frames. But then you start looking at the geometry of everything, right? Like the drive shaft is probably this long, where the motor sits behind the steering rack, the way the suspension is set up, and it's like, these are really well set up cars to do multiple things. You can road race them, you can drag race them, you can street race them, and they do all of it really well. But the car needs to be set up for that. I think the big problem with the Viper and the stigmatism of it being like some tail happy, like remember the GT2's Widowmaker or whatever. Yeah. They make fucking 400 foot-pounds of torque. You're not killing yourself with that. And it's got a 355 in the rear. Like, you have to be a fucking moron to do that. I think the problem was most of the people that wrecked them were fucking morons. They shouldn't have had them. And the fact that, I had one come in here the other day. It had 20-year-old tires on it. What do you do with 20? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, that's not. You could wreck that going down the street. So I think that's been, the bushings, even on the Gen 5s, they go bad. The alignments get knocked out. There's just a lot of, I hate to say it, it's a Dodge, and it comes with its Dodge quality issues. When you fix all of them, you have it's one of my favorite cars to drive. I've owned quite a few cars, and I've driven a ton of cars in my life, and man, I don't think there's anything on a road course as much fun as a manual Viper.
Really?
Fun-wise, yeah. And they're very fun.
How does it compare? Because you have a GT3 RS as well, right?
Fucking destroys it.
Really? Is your GT3 RS manual as well?
No, it's PDK. Yeah, it's a YSOC, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, the RSs never came manual. You can only get You can only get the regular GT3s.
Okay.
So you have a GT3, which is the narrow body, GT3 RS, which is like the turbo body that has the scoops, but it's not turboed. It just goes to the intakes. And then that's the RS, and then you have the RS YSOC, carbon roof. All the suspension is spherical. It's like 75 pounds lighter, 45 pounds lighter, whatever the fuck it is. But yeah, that's about all those are PDK.
Okay. So you kind of mentioned you've gotten to drive a number of things. You've gotten to work on a number of things. Like this is your Huracan on the lift behind us over here.
Yeah.
How does the Viper compare to Huracans and R8s? Like, in your opinion, what do you prefer?
I had an R8 in 21, Miami Blue, every option, and I had it for like 2 months and sold it because I thought the car sucked. if you really want my opinion, I got that Performante, and I had it for like 2 days, and I thought it was really cool for the first 2 days, and then I'm like, man, I just want to go drive my Viper, I have a 07 manual Porsche, 997 turbo. That's that and my ACR are probably like two of my all-time favorite cars.
Really?
And I've driven like a ton of cars in my life. There's just, and my red ACR is not turboed. It's just a 9-liter, like, I have 20s on it for the street and I have 18s for the track. I have almost $35,000 in suspension on that car, but it drives like a Lexus and fucking handles like a fucking F1 car. It's just a really fun car. Like, is it the fastest thing at COTA? No, because
there's always someone faster too.
Well, there's always someone faster, a faster car, but it's fast.
Yeah.
It's if for a Dodge manual car, it holds its own. With a pro driver, like if you threw Cameron Lawrence in that car, it'd probably be like a 214, 215 car. That's I mean, Cup cars go 210. 208, okay. So like you're 4 seconds off a Cup car.
Yeah.
In a manual Viper. Where I see the most difference, like in the carousel, which is like this double apex at COTA.
Yeah.
It's like you enter it, you don't even hit the brakes. You just go left at like 80 something miles an hour, and then you hit the one apex. You kind of like drift out, and then you come back in real tight to hit the second apex and come out. Like, I'm hitting that second apex at like 120 in that car.
Jesus.
Like, there's actually I had a helmet camera on, and the steering wheel was 90 degrees, and it said 117 miles an hour. Like this, I can't do that in my GT3.
Really?
No, even on slicks. Like, it just, also just the fun factor. Like, the GT3 is fun, but it gets boring. Like, the Vipers, it's a man's car. On a hot day, it's going to make you fucking very dizzy. It's hot. You have to know how to drive it. It will overheat if you don't pay attention to it. Like, a lot of people just want to sit in that like 6,000 to 7,000 range. I keep it in like that 4,500 to 5,500 range. I don't have any overheating issues, but you got to pay attention, especially on a hot day. But like, the car generates a lot of heat. So like, when it's 110 degrees outside and you're road racing, you're in a suit, you're in a helmet. Obviously, you don't have any air conditioning. You could put a cool suit on. That would be the smart thing to do. But like, manual car, shifting, turning, clutching, like, you get out, and there have been times like I've gone in my trailer just fucking dizzy as fuck. Like, it literally made me sick. GT3, like, I can fucking go all day, no problem with the air conditioning on. I don't have the windows tinted, so I just roll them up like in the summertime, so like the flag people don't see you, and like fucking have the air conditioning. It does the same thing over and over and over again.
So you mentioned the suspension thing. What's your choice of suspension in that car?
Penske's.
Okay.
Penske on everything.
Do you do that for your turbo cars as well?
Everything.
Okay.
Everything. Yeah. So like, if you look at one, there's just like a welded clevis for the control arms, like the lower control arms, and the frame winds up usually breaking there. So we like reinforce that whole area, and then it's got like just this little metal square strip like brazed on it, and those like the clevis is like this very thin piece of metal. So with the rubber bushings, once they start to wear, everything starts moving, and you'll actually wind up on Fabricio's car. We wound up pushing the whole control arm through the frame. Yeah, so he calls me. He's like, "Hey man, there's something weird with the car. It doesn't want to go straight anymore." I'm like, "Yeah, you have that variable control arm, like variable camber mod going on, But yeah, like, so to do the bushings properly, like to do the badass setup like what's on my Viper, you got to pull all the control arms off. Pull all the suspension off, disassemble everything, knock all the rubber shit out of everything, right? That's like just a week of work right there. And then we send them off to this place that like they basically, with a CNC machine, like like, since all the cars are slightly different, you have to measure everything on the cars. Like, so basically the spacers are going to kind of all be different car to car. You have to measure it. This is like the badass setups, like what's on my car. And then they CNC like a little circlip. You put a spherical bearing in there. Same thing. You put a roller bearing for the ball joints. I'm trying to think what else. Penske's, all that other stuff. And then once you do all the heat insulation, everything, like, you got, a 3-day alignment, ride height alignment, corner balance, and like another, I don't know, fucking, let's say 10 to 12 days of work, right? And then another $15,000-$20,000 in parts. So yeah, it adds up. People don't realize it. It adds up really quick. We've been using lately the Doug Shelby kits for like the street cars.
Yeah, yep.
It's kind of like a hybrid spherical Darrellin kit. Much easier to install, but it's still like a 30-hour job, and plus the alignment, plus ride height, plus so you'll be like 25 grand into that setup. But
they must be fun because even talking, every talk to somebody about Vipers, the amount of work that has to go in and the money that has to go into making them do what you guys can make them do, it sounds painstaking. So it must be worth the drive.
You just need to know exactly what you're getting into, and that's the problem with the Viper. You need to know it's a Dodge. You need to know that it doesn't matter if it's a low mileage car, the rubber bushings are eventually going to crack. There can be, we had a car, this guy from like South Texas was here in Austin with his wife, calls me, he's like, dude, my windows are rolling up and down, the doors are popping open, closing, like I don't know what's going on. I have like a 7-hour drive home. Jaime came over here, they had the CAN bus issue. It was just a pin that wasn't crimped right. Jaime found it, pulled it, recrimped it, everything worked again. But that's your typical Dodge shit,
That happened to one of my buddies too. The door would not close, and we were on a cruise like an hour from the city.
Yeah, it just starts. I put an anti-gravity battery in my car, and all of a sudden, like the fucking windows started moving up and down, and like the dash was flickering. And I wound up actually, we were in Florida. I wound up buying just a normal battery, throwing a normal battery in there. I drove the car from Tampa to the Keys and back. So I was like, man, I don't want, God forbid it starts pouring. My girlfriend at the time was in the car, and but yeah, you got to know what you're getting into. It's like it seems like a pain in the ass, right? But look at how much money people sink into fucking resto mods, right? Yeah. Like you have, what is that place up in Detroit Speed, Dutch Brothers, like all these places, and like, granted, it's like some of the best body work you've ever seen, but they're just taking your standard LS engine, whatever thing, right? Conversion kit, dropping it in with some split wire loom that's not concentric wrapped and any of this, and you have a $500,000 resto mod pretty easily, So if you do the math on what you're going to spend on all this, like all of it's expensive. Like it doesn't matter what chassis you buy. I bet that guy's got fucking $250,000 in that Supra. He loves his Supras. He just, it's one of those things. Like if you love the car, you just kind of deal with none of this shit's cheap, or painless. Let's be real. Like all of it has its headaches. All of it has its, every platform. But yeah, it's. I don't know.
I got to give props to Noel for the highlight he did of when they did the Go Hard episode with you. That quote has been living rent-free in my head. You think building 3,000 horsepower is fucking cheap?
Well, that's, what's crazy? I called Aaron the other day because somebody called me and they wanted a quote on like 2,000 horsepower, cage, all this stuff, or maybe 1,900, whatever it was. So I call Aaron, I'm like, hey, not to dig too much deep in your business, but like, if somebody called your shop and asked for XYZ, what would you be? And like, dude, we were within a few dollars of each other, right? Like, and I was like, cool. And he goes, why? And I'm like, because this guy called here and he was like, is that with the car? And I'm like, no. Like, what do you, I think the quote was like between 275 and 300. And he, for like an 1800X package or something. And he's like, nobody realizes how much time goes into this, but it's not the time that goes into the car, right? Like that's one thing. It's the time that goes into the development of the motors, the turbo kits. How many times I've pulled the motor, I'm sure Aaron's pulled tons of them, developing, his engine program, our engine program, cam profiles, all that stuff. Like, it's like your iPhone. That's probably a fucking $9 fucking thing made overseas, but you're paying $1,500 for it because of all the development that went into it, right? But that thing probably has like 1,000% margin where like me and Aaron are working like 15 to 20%, that's it. I tell people, if you don't have the car and the build in your bank account to not care if it's gone, right? Like complete, utter, total loss, this is not your game.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it. Like if if that's your baby and you want nothing to happen to it and this and that, like have a very low power car. Like our 1300 X cars is a low power car. They make 1450, 1500 wheel and they last fucking forever, right? Don't try to go compete. And I have this. I want to compete at TX2K in the Elite 8. Cool. Put like $600,000-$700,000 away, you know? And they're like, what do you mean? Like how? I'm like, you're gonna need 2 transmissions, 2 diffs, right? You're gonna need, if you want fucking a clutch car, 2 clutches. But either way, like if you don't want that car to be down, you need to have 2 of everything, you know? And that's the reality of a race car. Like Billy Stockland has been hanging around here a lot, and he's become a good friend of mine, you know?
Is that the guy from T1, or I'm blanking on someone else?
No, Billy Stockland is like this 7-time NHRA world champion.
Okay, someone else, yeah.
Yeah, he
Okay.
was Stevie Jackson's crew chief. He was crew chief for All-in-Hobby Racing. He's probably like one of the baddest motherfuckers on the planet for like chassis setup and knowing what's going on, right?
Okay.
People would pay him a lot of money to chief on their cars, and he lives up the street and wants to come over like on Saturdays and like drink beer and hang out. And then obviously talk about cars.
Yeah.
But he's a little older, so his wife doesn't like him traveling as much, and he's got a daughter in high school now and everything. So he comes here and, you know, gets his car fixed here or whatever and hangs out with me. They would have 3 motors, right? They used to run like big Pro Mod stuff. They'd have 3 motors and like this fucking gantry that would come out. And basically they could swap a motor in 40 minutes in between rounds on the Pro Mod shit. It's like, that's a professional race team. Like, you want to go professional racing, but you want me to have motors in stock for you. You want me to like put you to the front of the line. Like, cool, pay for it. You know, like that's the reality. At the end of the day, this is still a business. Like, friends are friends, and like I was talking to actually one of Aaron's customers the other day. He lives here in Texas, kind of old buddy of mine. I forget what he called me about. It was something, we're laughing about something we saw on Facebook. And he was like, yeah, I don't want Aaron to go out of business. I love him building my cars. So like my homie hookup is like, he sometimes puts me in front of other people, right? But like, I don't expect my friends to lose money to work on my fun stuff, you know?
Right.
So it's kind of like the same thing we were talking about yesterday when you guys were here for lunch. Have you ever seen a broke contractor, a broke plumber, a broke roofer? Like, no, they have zero overhead compared to what we have. You know, they have trucks, they have this, they have employees, but they don't have a $10 million umbrella garage keepers policy. If this place burns down, I have to replace all these cars. You know what I'm saying? Or they don't have payments on CNC machines, $130,000 dynos, like R&D cars, you know, all this stuff. And then if a shingle's not perfect, it doesn't matter. If your door frame is off a 1/4 inch, like, you're either going to notice and they're going to come back and reshim it, this, that. Like, if we're off by a few 10,000ths of an inch, like, that's a good motor versus a bad motor, you know? Or if like you don't hone a block right and it's tapered, that's the difference between a good motor and a bad motor. And it's like, or like, I'm just going to use an example a theoretical example, but like, let's say you get a bad batch of rods, fucking you break a rod, who's on the hook for that?
Right.
You know, the customer's going to want you to pay for it. You know, he's like, well, why did my rod break and all these other people didn't? It must be something you did. And that's the thing. You want to give a good product, right? But like, you have all these other variables. So it makes it very difficult to...
Well, not to mention, even if it's the company who made the rod's fault, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, sure, send them back, we'll give you new ones.
New ones, yeah, we'll give you new rods. Yeah, that didn't
Like,
stop
that's no
from
big
windowing
deal.
my block and like, you know, having the customer up my ass, and then you got to stop what you're doing to work on all these other customers' cars, to work on this car, and, you know.
We have another friend like that. Yeah, we'll send you a new set of wheels. Well, everything else is toast. You know? Yeah.
If you can't just slide it in, get it to fit right, or it bends a little bit funny, it's time to get some proper mandrel bends. Whether you are a weekend warrior or a shop owner, Hayes Performance has what you need to get your charge piping or exhaust dialed. From flex couplers to T-bolt clamps, if you want to lay down some pipe, go to HayesPerf.com and use Minnoxide 5 to get 5% off any Hayes Performance products. That's HAZEPERF.com. Let's get back to the show.
So you're doing a lot of the billet stuff now, right? For example, you had the billet blocks. So can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so that's been a long a long kind of R&D project that's coming to its final closure. So I didn't realize when we designed it, we don't have main caps on it. So it's a girdle. And the way we used to do main caps at the machine shop is you take the stock cap, put it basically the centering tool, right? I think there's like 58 thousandths, 60 thousandths left on the caps, like the billet cap. So and we have a fixture that bolts to a lathe, and you bolt the cap to that, and you could take, let's say 50 thou, leave like 10 thou on it, right? And then we'll bore the 10 thou out of the middle first, and then move the centering tool and do the two outsides, right? And then you can hone it in. It's always been great. The Viper block is so long, it's very difficult to do main caps on. Like, people are like, oh, you want $3,500 for main caps? I'm like, well, the caps are $1,200-$1,300, and then it's like a fucking 2.5, sometimes 3-day job, right? Because like sometimes you got to go in, like you took too much out of one cap and the other caps weren't enough just because of how long the block is, and then you have aluminum on a chromoly cap. It's very hard. We flip the motors right side up. You're supposed to do them upside down, but like, so it's riding on the chromoly, not the aluminum. But it's just a very cumbersome process. So anyway, back to the billet block. The problem we didn't foresee was it's just bored. And there's no caps to center it on. So we're making some fixturing plates for like a boring bar to get the proper machine to do a Viper motor. They're very hard to find used, or they're very, very, very expensive. So we've just always done it that way. And then we have a son in hone that hones them. That's not the problem. But yeah, that's pretty much the only thing the billet block is waiting on is these. They're being made now. They're basically like these end caps we're going to put on a fixturing table and then make our own kind of line bore deal out of that.
So what made the need for those then?
Well, we didn't realize how, we started that project in 2019 because we twisted one block and cracked another.
Okay.
And then the Lambo guys all had billet blocks already. So it was actually Fabricio that was like, I want a billet block, because I think we were like refreshing the motor, and I forget what we did, or we had to put a sleeve in it or something. When we indexed it, the motor was twisted, but the block wasn't cracked. It was like twisted 3/1000ths. And he's like, we need a billet block. So that's kind of what started it. And, over the last few years of developing the billet block, we've just kept pushing them harder and harder and harder, and realized like, man, we can make 3,500 horsepower on the stock block.
Which, that is crazy by itself too, right?
Dude, look at Brett LaSalle. He's got to be making 3,000 plus wheel on a fucking OEM. What is it? A Coyote motor?
Coyote, yeah.
That's fucking nuts. 8-cylinder stock block, and they're not, I don't know how many motors he goes through, what's behind the scene, but it looks like he did a whole drag and drive thing with, went 607 at 232.
Yeah.
That's fucking flying.
Coyote swap Viper, is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Well, it's also drag and drive is kind of like the other one, those like ultimate ones that shows you like just how much you could beat on a car. Because like, what's it, 4 events, 5 events?
Yeah, but you got to drive to
Yeah.
the event.
Yeah.
It's not even like the car living through the event. The car's got to drive down the street, I forgot who it was. I think it was like Bob Lutz or something. He would like go to the track, pull the radiators out of the car, take all the coolant out, put it back on methanol, and then like, run the car and then put coolant back in it or something. Like, I don't know if it was, don't quote me on that, but I remember seeing something like crazy like that. It's like, man, like, you guys are taking, it's kind of like the whole street outlaw stuff. It's like, those are supposed to be street racers. Like, no, you have a full-blown fucking pro mod that you're just racing fucking somewhere that has telephone poles near you. Like, the only thing you guys are doing is being really fucking dumb. Like, that's about it at night.
So what's your thought on the whole streetcar debate? I know it's all over Facebook every day. Like, this is a streetcar, this isn't. What defines it for you?
Can you valet it at a wedding?
Ooh, that's a good
Well,
one.
hold on. Most people can't even drive a manual if they valet it.
Can you valet the car if the valet can drive a manual? My
Okay.
thing is, would you be embarrassed to valet it at a wedding? You're not going to valet Brett LaSalle's car at a fucking high-end wedding. No. You'll take a fucking nice 97 Supra and valet it. You'll take an ACR and valet it. You'll take a fucking Lambo and valet it. Are you going to take a methanol fucking billet block fucking on 15 drag car with a drag wing and valet at a wedding? No. Smells. You're not going to want to smell. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what I would say is, can you valet the car at a wedding?
Ooh, I've never heard that approach to it. I like that one.
That's different. Yeah, I agree.
No, because everybody's definition of a street car is like some fucking bullshit. You know, like
Right.
The true definition of a street car is like, bro, does it pass inspection? Like a state inspection. There's nothing that does. You know, so that in that theory, everything's a fucking race car. You know, that would be my best description of it. Like, you know, does it have power steering? Does it have air conditioning? Can you take it on a 100-mile round trip without having to fill up, on methanol or put ice in the tank every 3 seconds? I think what's really cool about the Lambos is the fact that they're all-wheel drive DCT, so you can still, same thing Porsches, you can get them to drive so smooth, with the DCT stuff versus like, you want some crazy power stuff. The sequentials, like, that is a driver's transmission. Can it be smooth? Yes, but it's always going to be a little loud. It takes a lot of the street car attributes away from it versus like, keeping a manual. We have a lot of guys. That great car over there, Ralvo, that's a 2,600 horsepower manual, non-dog box manual, like PPG manual gear set inside of it. So it's kind of funny because at the half mile, there's now this big debate. Should they allow dog boxes because they're still H pattern versus clutch cars, right? Like synchro cars. And everybody's arguing about it. But like at the end of the day, the cars came with manual synchro transmissions, right? So how much more of a street car can you get? That makes 2,600 wheel with a manual transmission. That car can drive to Houston and fucking back, air conditioning, power steering, all that stuff, that's what I would call a street car, it makes a ton of power. You put a sequential in it, I would say you're taking a little street car attributes out of it. Like, that's where I guess the Lambo guys, you have 4 driven wheels versus 2 driven wheels. You have a DCT transmission, you have, a ton of technology in those cars versus like the big dumb Dodge,
Well, we were talking about that yesterday too. You said that the all-wheel drive unnerves you a little bit more than driving a rear-wheel drive car.
I've been fucking sideways through the traps, like where the fucking back end is like, going in first at 215 miles an hour in Hondo, and like you see the in-car video, and I'm saving it, right? But I'm driving it, right? I'm physically driving it. It looped, and I did whatever. I should have let off. The bump steer was off in the car, and it just fucking got away from. I stayed in it. I shouldn't have. It was me being stupid. The all-wheel drive cars, like, man, when they lose it, it's like you're just along for the ride. There is no like. They do this weird shit where, like, I guess like the best way I can describe it is like, the front end will start torque steering this way, but the back end feels like it's still wanting to go straight, so it just, and there's no correcting it. It's like, it's very, very, very difficult. We're like a rear-wheel drive car. I mean, it's a rear-wheel drive car. You've done donuts in your life. You can figure out how to save it. They just come, I was testing that orange perf we did, and Cody had the anti-lag a little too spicy. And I came off the anti-lag at like 18 pounds, which is all in, 1,400 wheel. And it just, I wasn't expecting it. It just was like, it threw me like 3 lanes, Yeah. And it was like, I let off, tried to get back, and then it does this thing where it starts like, moving around on you. It's just, it's very difficult. I definitely feel like the Viper is a 10 times more stable car.
Which again, it goes the complete opposite of what people expect, like you talked about earlier.
I think what's happened is you have, this goes back to the driver, right? What I was saying about Aaron and Mike and YouTubers or whatever. If you have a really good driver that knows what the fuck he's doing, and you go to a racetrack, do you see all-wheel drive top fuel cars?
No.
Do you see all-wheel drive fucking F1 cars? Right? Everything's been rear-wheel drive, right? In racing for a reason. Now, these cars are all-wheel drive, and it's like, I believe it's there to save your ass, right? Like, have a car that you can drive in the rain, like a really cool, nice street car. It's all-wheel drive. Launch it, do this stuff, like, and yes, they're very fast, but I think people start to use that as like a crutch for not being a good driver, right? And what you have these draggy wars, right?
Yeah.
With all these guys, draggy racing shops with DCT cars or air shifted sequentials or this or that. If like you want to see something cool, put a bunch of manual guys together and see who has the fastest draggies, right? In a rear-wheel drive car.
True.
That's what I would say is the true testament. Like you have 2 driven wheels and a clutch and a foot and 2 hands. Like that's what kind of like that car was cool. Like I told you the first 2 days, and then I was like, man, this shit's kind of boring. Like if you really enjoy driving a car, a manual car is kind of the end all. And you can't. What sucks is there's no cool new manual cars to modify these days. Like cars have just like we were talking about this the other day. If I had to get into a different market right now, what is there to get into? And we're like, dude, there's no really cool cars. Like, what are you gonna do? Turbo a Pista or turbo an SF9 or modify an SF90? Like, they're not gonna be what like a Lambo, an R8, or a Supra, a Viper, or GTR will ever be. You're never gonna get the performance out of it that way. Yeah, you'll have a cool street car to go cruise around in, maybe 1,000, 1,200 horsepower if you want to go nuts, but it's nothing like iconic that you're going to have that's going to make a statement like one of these cars, for going fast and big power. And there's just nothing out there. We were like thinking about it. Like if I had to get into another platform, there's nothing I would think is really fucking cool. The 992 turbo Porsches are awesome. Like I love Porsche. I think it's one of the best brands out there. But AIM has that whole thing locked down. There's only so many people that want to do big power 992 turbo Porsches. Most of those guys are like your 1,200 horsepower range, but they're very fast. They're very. Sheepy called me the other day and he did like some bolt-ons and a flash on a 992 turbo S, and he's like, dude, these transmissions are way fucking better than the Huracan R8 trannies. I was like, yeah, they're fucking. It's a DCT, but it's the PDK stuff is best shit out there. So
it's kind of funny that. I feel like you would definitely have an opinion on that because I think you have a problem saying no because there's some weird shit in here that I don't think anybody else would work on.
Yeah, that is true.
I'd say when it comes to exotic shit, you've got it down.
So the Supra is my buddy's car. He's just doing a transmission. Jaime was doing it for him. He was rebuilding a sequential for TX2K. The Saline we thought was going to be a cool, easy project to unfuck it, and we just opened up a can of worms. And then we opened up another can of worms, and then we probably opened up a coffin with a dead body full of worms. But yeah, it's coming to a close. Like, yeah, we fired the car off, and it fucking shot like a 3-foot stream of water out the back. So motor had to come out, and like the problem with that car is it takes up, when you're working on it, it takes up 3 car spaces.
Yeah.
So like you need to have an empty shop. You need to, it needs to be like nothing around it. You need to have everything laid out. There's no, we're lucky Saline moved down the street from California and they were pretty cool with helping to get us manuals and all that stuff for it and any of the information we needed on it. But still, like, it is a pain in the ass to work on that car. And then what else do we have in here that's a pain in the ass? Oh, that fucking nightmare from Andy House at GT2. Like, it's on a Motec M800. It came here. I guess Ben Beckhart bought it on Bring a Trailer or one of, I don't know. That's where the story differs, whatever, right? I think there was probably some intoxicated fucking Bring a Trailer purchasing going on. That car is a fucking nightmare. Whoever built that car, like, you can Google 996 turbo fucking, or 996 GT2 RSR, and that thing came up, and I will fucking gladly say this to your face. Whoever fucking, it was all these magazines, you should never touch a fucking car again in your life. You are a dumb motherfucker, right? Like, I will say that to your face, and fucking for the nightmare you built out of that car, you bastardized the car and ruined it.
If you're a young enthusiast learning to wrench or an experienced shop owner already running 7s at the drag strip, the High Performance Academy is a resource where all horsepower junkies can go to expand their skill set. Whether you are learning how to build an engine, tune your ECU, or dial in your suspension setup for some weekend autocross, the HP Academy has the perfect step-by-step course for you. They've provided the listeners of the show with a special 55% off discount code that you can use risk-free on any course that you're choosing. Use code MINNOX, MINNOX, to get 55% off, or click the link in the show description to choose a course of your liking. Go check it out. Let's get back to the show.
Okay. And then I have to fix all this shit. Like you're talking, it's got a M800. So the roof scoop, right? Porsches don't have problems overheating.
Yeah.
Right? The roof scoop goes to an intercooler on top of the engine. You want to talk about high and low pressure zones. Yeah. The intercoolers, where they used to go on the side of the car, are now oil coolers. There's like 7 fuel pumps inside the car because they put like some cup car hybrid bladder thing. So it's got 4 fuel pumps sitting in the corners of this thing that all feed this tank inside of a tank, right? But it's where the float is.
Yep.
So like you have your tank here and then you have this tank in the middle. The fuel pumps feed it and the top is all open. So like when you fill it up with gas, it's always filled, right? And then there's 2 fuel pumps in there. You can't get to any of it. It's all welded inside the fucking car, right? So like when we got the car, it supposedly made like 1,125 wheel on ethanol, right? It didn't have enough fuel pump to make 500 on pump gas. All the boost tables were zeroed out. It's got some sequential shifter in it that goes to an electronic box. It does have some cool shit. It's got a cup car engine in it. Upgraded turbos, this, that, but like things showed up here smoking its fucking ass off. They had no check valves on the turbos. Like it's got ITBs on a turbo car, right? Like why did you do all this shit? You took something, it's now no longer drive-by-wire either. It's it's like actually got a manual cable in it. Mm-hmm. Right, because it's got an M800 on it. M800, you need an expansion module, like the drive-by-wire controller to get that to work. So like they didn't even piggyback the stock ECU and try to take over boost or something like that. They just got rid of stuff that was really well engineered by Porsche and put whatever fucking disaster they came up with in their fucking
just going
head.
Backwards in technology.
Dude, the fuel rails look like fucking utter shit, like bird welds on fucking fittings and fucking just, the people should never touch a fucking car. And I'll say that to your fucking face. Like, you are a fucking moron.
Do you want to kind of touch on what got you into that whole Huracan development? Because have you worked on Huracans quite a bit in the past, or is this kind of you venturing into that world?
So we did Andrew Chen's. We've done 4 or 5 bolt-on cars.
Okay.
We're using Boost Logic turbo kits, tuning them, stock ECU. Andrew's got a Motec, fuel system, all that stuff. And then, my customers were like, we've been waiting for you to get into this because we want to have both. Right? Mm-hmm. We have a great relationship with you. We have been building motors for other shops that have been, for the last year or so, that have been doing well, right? So it just kind of made sense to kind of venture into that market because our customers that we already have good relationships with don't want to venture out there. Mm-hmm. We've kind of already have the motor thing figured out. So yeah, I got a shop development car. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how that goes. But the Viper stuff's definitely dying out. Like you said, there's only like 2,400 Gen 5s built, and like we've turboed over 200 of them. So, that's
pretty legit, by the way. That's a cool
stat. I think we're like 190 something. But then you have like head cam cars, 9-liter cars that we've pulled engines out just to rebuild the motors, like stock bearing failures and stuff. It's just like at some point that small pond you're in is already shrinking. And then I'm going to say the economy, the last 4 years has not been the best, right? We're a luxury item. Like luxury items are the first things to go. Like look at Rolexes. They fucking plummeted the last 2 years, So it's just something else to venture out, supplement our customers. Everybody's kind of doing it, go that way. Like I like the way they look. They're cool cars. They're fast. There's no doubt about it. Like you have 4 driven wheels and a DCT transmission with a motor in the back. Like how are you gonna fuck that up?
Yeah.
It's really nice getting into a car that doesn't like creak, rattle. The interior's in one piece. Like the Viper, you close the door, the window falls. Like when Colin went 233.5 mile, the fucking window was in the door. Yeah. Like it fell in the door.
Really?
Yeah, he was making 200 plus mile an hour hits with one window.
Well, I know that was a common complaint at one point in time in the Vipers. I know the interiors got better, but it was like you were sitting in a PT Cruiser or a Viper, you couldn't tell the fucking difference.
The Gen 5's a lot better, but like it's still like it just falls apart, Yeah. But man, like the dashes peel, but fucking Ferraris do the same shit. My wife's Cayenne. It's got fucking we bought it brand new and like the first fucking year it started to get a wrinkle in the dash and it's got the UV protected fucking tint. It's garage capped, all this shit. I think it's most of the shit quality has just gone down, but Dodge is notorious for not being great. You know, just little shit like creaks, rattles, interior panels. Like they glue the clips onto like there's these little your B pillar, I guess you would call that right there, that goes to your quarter panel. There's these, they kind of look like this. It's like a little S-looking piece of, you know, carpet or whatever. And it's got these metal, like, prongs, right, that go into, like, just literally some stamped piece of fucking thing that they put a sheet metal screw through or something, right? And boom, they put that on there. Well, like, you have to be insanely fucking careful pulling those out, because if not, the glue breaks. Mm-hmm. Who glues a piece of plastic, right, to a clip that is put to metal? Like, obviously
that's what you do after you already broke it once the first time.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, like you could be as careful as you want and you still break them, you know. Just little shit. The fucking gas caps fail all the time, so you got to stick that little white plastic thing in there. And like, you know, customers get really frustrated about that. Oh, you did the fuel system on it, and now I'm like, dude, it's a common problem with the car. Like, you know, my car, my ACR, I just have to hold like 1 inch-pound of pressure on the gas, gas hose for it not to fucking, you know, trick that little. I guess there's like these 3 prongs in there, and one of them breaks or something. But it's your typical Dodge shit, you know. That's the one nice thing about like the Huracan R8 thing. Like, you get in them to move them, and you're just not like, oh, this Dodge, you know. The other thing is we're starting to see a lot of the cars. You know, the Gen 5 was from 2013 through 2017. Up until about 21, most of the cars we were getting were like sub 5,000 miles. Now we're starting to get a lot of the cars that are 25, 30, 35,000 miles, and you're running into just a lot of like OEM junk. You know, like they're falling apart, and people want you to like stock motor turbo cars. I'm like, dude, like your car's got like 40,000 miles on it. It's probably gonna kick a rod out if we, you know, if we turbo this thing and they just don't. Well, you know, you've turboed all these other cars in the past and this and that. It's like, I mean, it's an expensive car to own. Like, it's, I'm going to venture out and say, like, once you start getting in, like, the crazy big power stuff, like, it's all the same shit, right? It's all the kind of the same realm. You have the only thing that sucks about the Huracan R8 is, like, the transmissions. They are very fucking expensive. I think, like, I got a quote to do this white car. I was going to send it to Boost Logic, and then I wound up working out a deal with PPG, or actually Precision Racing, where I can install the PPG gear sets here in the United States, or actually sell them to people. But before I did that, I was going to have Boost Logic build that white car's transmission, and to do everything, just the whole Datsun catalog with Boost Logic axles, stub shafts, all that shit was like $92,000.
Oh.
Right? Like, that is fucking insane. $92,000, which makes you go back to like your $25,000 fully built M&M Trans sounds a lot fucking better, you know. And then
absolutely.
when you smoke it, it's fucking $1,100 in fucking clutches, you know. But that's the kind of the caveat with those things is like that's the Achilles heel, right? Because they still break.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you see yourself going into full-blown competition with these? Or are you just building street cars for people that want 1,100 horse, the whole gamut, I guess?
I would like to, you know, we have a few customers that want to build big power cars.
Okay.
And what we're going to do is get that 2,000 to 2,300, 2,400 range really dialed. And then I heard people are having some issues, overheating issues with some of the billet block companies that are out there.
Okay.
We'll see when we get to cross that bridge.
Right.
Hopefully, once we get there, they're for sale for everybody, right? So anybody can buy them. Maybe that will be more lined out.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, listen, one of these cars that makes, like Chen's car, that makes 1450, 1470 wheel, it is a very fucking fast car. Like, with a 30 mile an hour headwind, his first time driving it, he went 208.5 miles. So you figure a 213, 214 car somewhere, like all the cars were down 7 mile an hour that day. It's fun as shit. It's not lazy. It just get up and goes. It makes all the right noises, right? So like you have something at 1450 to 1600 that's just like a really fun car. And I think that's like one of the things a lot of people are losing sight on is like fun street cars don't need to be a hybrid race car. Have a race car, have a street car.
Does that scare you how accessible 1,000 or 1,200 horsepower is now?
No, because like you drive a 1,200 horsepower car and it feels like it's broken. Like it's fucked up. Like like I forget whose car I was in the other day, but I was like, man, this thing's fucking slow. Like, and once you've driven 2,000, 3,000, 2,500 over and over and over again, you've gone 230 and a half mile. You've rolled a car at 200 miles an hour fucking 10 times. Like, nothing really feels fast anymore. Unless you start listen, there is nothing about 2,500 to 3,000 horsepower that will ever feel slow, but 1,200 horsepower feels like the cars are broken.
Yeah.
And now you have Teslas that make 1,000 horsepower.
Right.
Like, you have an electric car that you can get in that literally makes 1,000. What does the new Honda Civic Type R make? Like fucking 350 wheel, 400 wheel? Yeah, so you have like a car you'll buy your high school kid. A high school kid fucking that makes more power than my 300ZX twin turbo did in the 90s.
Good point.
So yeah, I don't think 1,200 horsepower being plus all the technology we have today. It's not like, man, I put a 410 in my fucking Fox body with a fucking like Whipple on it and fucking has no traction control, and I'm just banging gears and zinging to the fucking limiter every time. It's a much different game than it was like, when I was in high school. You and me went to high school more the same time. I guess you're 15 years younger than us?
Yeah.
No, I remember when 220 horsepower Fox bodies were like
king
of
the
shit,
fucking
right?
street. Yeah. If you made 350 wheel, you were the shit.
Yeah.
Like, we used to fucking pull. I had a 300ZX twin turbo in high school. I used to fucking just put C16 in it and pull the wastegate lines. The car made like, I don't know, 411 wheel or something when I did that. That thing was like unstoppable, and I thought it was the fastest fucking thing in the world until I put bigger turbos on it. It made like 550. I'll never forget the first time I laid into 550 wheel. I was like, like, this is so fucking fast. I let off. It scared me, I'm like, and then like by the end of the day, I was like, okay, I need more power. It's, but no, I don't think. If you look at everything I've done I think that like that 1,500 horsepower is the sweet spot for all street cars. Like, you're not going to something fucking crazy. You're gonna have something that's super fucking reliable, and fun. Like, I think the biggest thing everybody's lost sight of in the last few years is the fun factor. Right? Have a car that's really fun and reliable, and then just build a race car to go really fucking fast. Don't have your street car be your race car, so when your race car's broken, you don't have a street car.
Yeah, when it's broken, you're not having fun.
You're not having fun, or like, oh man, this thing smells like shit, or puffs fucking, yes, your wore out race engine after fucking 2 years of spraying a 400 shot with twin 88s on it is gonna fucking puff oil. Like, I'm sorry, like, that's something you're gonna have to re-ring and put a fucking set of pistons in every 2 years, versus like, Kirk Roliano, he owns Boost Lab. I think he's got like 20-something thousand miles on his 1300X car. And besides him breaking the stock trans, we put a PPG in it. It's never had a problem since. He's had a relay go bad on that car. That's it. Like, he puts oil in it, spark plugs, and just beats the fuck out of it. And it's, that's fun, right? It's a manual car. It's fun. You're not going to have to worry about the fucking reverse lockout braking on a fucking sequential, or like, you're going out on a date and you want to go on, like, take your Viper out, like, then the fucking chick's like, is your transmission broken? Like, fifth gear sounds like it's fucking about to fall out of it,
It vibrates nice though.
But it's just like, we tried to mesh those two things for so long.
Right.
Have like these badass street cars that would keep up with race cars, and then like everything became a fucking race car. Like, we were going back to the fucking Street Outlaw guys. They're racing pro mods on the street.
Yeah.
There's nothing street car about that. Like, if you guys want to go race street cars, go build a fucking Fox body with a full fucking interior. You know what I'm saying? Twin turbo Fox body that makes, small tire car or something, and then go race yourselves, or 6-speed cars or something, I don't know. That's just kind of like my view on it now. Maybe I'm getting old.
Well, some of that shit gets ridiculous for the street too. Like you said, just being idiots. We went to some cash day stuff where I'm like, you guys are rolling shit off a trailer and doing this in the middle of the night. There's people standing all over the place. I'm like, this is fucking insane.
It's intense.
Yeah.
Look, I'll never forget, we were in Oklahoma at a streetcar takeover in 2020, and This guy a guy with a Fox body wanted to race McRippens. We're like, cool. We go out, and the guy had to pull over 3 times to full his he had a truck following him with a 55-gallon barrel of methanol. So he had a 5-gallon fuel cell, and the dude is literally wearing a helmet with no hood, right? Fucking I don't know what the fuck was in what motor it was or whatever, right? But a methanol turbo fucking TH400 car, right? Like on a X275, and like McRippens put like 30 fucking cars on that thing. But like if you take that car to the drag strip, it's gonna fucking smoke McRippens. Mm-hmm. So like there is do you want a race car or a drag car, or a race car or a street car? Like, right. You know, and McRippens' car at that time was making like 1650 wheel, and he, you know, that car was fucking fast, and it lived fucking a very long, nice life, you know. Well, not nice life, but it got the shit kicked out of it. But you know, it's one of those things like, you know, at 3,000 horsepower, you have to have multiple cars, right? You can't have one car that does everything you want it to do. It's just not. It's not a reality anymore. You know, that's like the Supras back in the day. Everybody had a 1,250 horsepower Supra back in 2006, 2007, right? Manual car. That's more of a street car, fun, you know. And now that's where the top dogs back then, right? Now a 1,200 horsepower Supra is a dime a dozen. So, but back to like what you were saying about, to touch on the subject of fast cars too, is look at that dude that died the other day in that BMW in New York.
Oh yeah, I saw that one.
Oh yeah,
that kid with the dreads or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that is a total fucking waste of life. For what? To show that you're a fucking badass street racer. Like, if you look at the car, like if he had even the remote amount of proper safety equipment, he probably would have lived, because it looked like the car was split in half behind the passenger, or behind the seats, right? He had no seat belts, he had a fucking carbon bucket, no interior, like no cage, no nothing, and you're driving a tin can 180 miles an hour on a side street with trees. Like, a tree is gonna win. A tree, a pole, a building, you know, fucking multiple parked cars is going to win over your car going fucking 190 miles an hour. Or like the Pro Mods going 200 miles an hour. I can't see at night, right? So those guys are running with no fucking headlights on. I'm like, I don't even know how you can. I can't drive. It was funny. I didn't drive my ACR for like a really long time. It was back during COVID, and pistons were back ordered, and I would build a short block for the car, 9-liter, and then a customer would come want it, and I'm like, fuck. So I was like 2 or 3 short blocks. Finally, the guys for my birthday fucking put the car together and like surprised me at my house with it. Huh. And I didn't drive it for almost a year, and me and my wife went out to dinner. She took my GT3, and the fucking front windshield tinted on my Viper. And she's calling me. She's like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, I can't see out of the front windshield. So I was in the right lane going like 45 miles an hour on the highway. So I can't imagine racing a Pro Mod with orange street lamps illuminating a fucking, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's stupid. It's like, if you want to kill yourself, like, sure, but like, you have the younger generations of kids that look up to you, you know? And it's like, as you start to get older, you got to realize, like, you have to set an example, and like, being some fucking dumb redneck that fucking is like trying to just be some machismo is like not the look people want to do anymore, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, have you seen what's popular out there now? Like, girls don't give a shit if you're macho anymore. You can wear skinny jeans and
don't even get me started on that shit.
Flip flops and shit. What the fuck?
Yeah,
dude, I like wearing flip flops, but
but like, I saw the pink one out there. I'm like, it's a singular pink flip flop.
Dude, I don't know where that showed up. Nobody's ever thrown it out. It just sits in the fucking parking lot. But like, yeah, Austin, man, I remember Austin. You could just like wear flip flops and board shorts right off the lake and go to like the nicest steakhouse. And now it's like, fuck, I don't know if like my fucking server is a fucking male that turned into a female that turned into a male, or just a fucking whack job. Like, the city sucks.
Yeah.
So you touched a lot on safety there, right? You had a pretty nasty crash last year too, though.
Yes, 2 years ago.
Was it 2 years ago?
It'll be August this year and a half.
Sure, yep. So I mean, obviously that was a half-mile event. Yeah. I mean, that was a pretty high speed. So you want to kind of touch on that whole deal?
Yeah, 2 things. If you ever feel like something's not right, just pull off. I felt like something wasn't right, and I made the pass anyway. I think, we can't really tell, but I think what happened was you have like at the half mile, there's obviously no water box, right? So you have where they're doing burnouts on concrete, right? And it starts to lay down more and more rubber. Well, it's a clutch car on a radial, so that's never a good thing for wheel hop, right? Especially you do your burnout on that rubber, it grips, wheel hops, you break something. Well, I would do my burnout way before the burnout box, right? So I'd get the nice dusty runway. So what I would do is I rev up the car really high and I start slipping the car. I start slipping the clutch really hard until it starts spinning, and then I just get on the fucking brakes and let it spin a little bit, and then I get off the brakes and let it roll out. Well, when I did that, I think I was too close to where the burnout box was, and it gripped, and I felt it hop, and I immediately clutched in, and the car rolled, and I was like, okay, cool, like everything feels good. I'm going forward. And I don't know if this is exactly what happened. Nobody really does. But when I turned left, I heard a clunk clunk in the back, and I was like, "Man, that's weird." Okay, go. I went, and the car started like doing this weird little thing, and I thought it was for like there was a really bad crosswind that day. So I let off the gas. When I got back on it, it like it was like the perfect storm of boost, auto shift. Maybe something was already broken in the rear. I don't know. All I remember is the car was going straight, but it was just like I couldn't see, my eyeballs were vibrating so bad. And then I got past the flags, and I knew the car was on a run because I saw 217 like half track, and I'm like, oh man, this is it. This is gonna be my 230 because I've gone 229.8 in the car, and I'm like, I just want this fucking 230 number, right? So I got back in it, and I'm like, maybe I can make up the 12 miles an hour, and it just started fucking shaking, and I was like, what the fuck? And then as soon as I let off, it's weird. So I was knocked out from negative G's. Nothing actually hit my head. Like my eyes tried to come out of my sockets. They were all black and blue. There wasn't a scratch on my helmet. And I guess when you get knocked out from negative G's, it's not a concussion. You just, I guess, I don't know how to explain it but like a guy that's an F-35 pilot was like basically like you just kind of starve yourself for oxygen or whatever it is, or like your eye, like your brain's hitting your fucking skull, or I don't know. It's the stopping. It's not the it's not the pulling, right? And it happened over and over and over again. But I was only unconscious for like 30 seconds, and then I woke up, and it took like it's weird the way your brain works, like. As days went on, I started to remember more of the accident. And basically, it's just fucking, you can see the video. I let off, and then it just spins around, right?
Yeah.
Like, if I would have pulled the parachute way early, it might have saved it. Like, but there was nothing to save it at that time. It was 190 plus miles an hour, and then it went off. Like, it barrel rolled twice. And then somehow when it got in the grass, it started going front over back, and that's when I got knocked out, I think, after the first one. But no concussion. I chipped my fingernail by hitting, I think, a cage. Or I don't know. There's the fucking fire suppression was in the passenger seat. Like fucking the battery was 1,000 feet from the car. The parachute was in the engine bay.
Fuck.
The only thing holding the front of the car to the back was that the motor and transmission were still together. And there's no subframes in a Viper, right? Like when we cut everything out, literally I just kicked the fucking frame rail and it broke off. So like the transmission holding the main frame to the front, holding the motor was the only thing that held the two pieces together. I was very lucky I didn't get impaled by the steering wheel. I walked away with very minor, I got a few scratches, I think from like something under the dash coming loose or I don't know, but that was it. You know, and after that, I was like, man, I look at all the people that we put out there with like stock seats, right? That their helmets are real close to the roof and this and that. I'm like, man, like we do these tucked roll bars, these 4 points, and these guys go out there with these tucked 4 points because that's the safety requirement to go over 200. And it's like, that's not going to save your fucking life. You know, you need to get the passenger fucking low. This comes to where, do you want a street car or do you want a race car? Like, do you want to die? You know, like think about 190 miles an hour is a stock motor bolt-on turbo car in the half mile, right? It's not like I did some fucking 250 mile an hour run and fucking lost it
Yeah.
at the end, you know?
Yeah.
I did what a stock motor bolt-on turbo car does. So
I've been 180 in my stock GT500.
Yeah.
That's not very far from that.
no,
190.
No, it was at 194, 197. I lost
Well, since
it.
we're all bragging, I did 150 in my GTI. So
So, but yeah, that's one of those things. I think the safety stuff, we started making all the big power guys like, hey, we're putting cages in your car. Like,
did that car have a cage?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, I thought I saw it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was the only thing left of it. Like when I woke up, I remember when I woke up, there was this very, very nice EMT lady, and she was
Was it the classic? Are you an angel or
no,
Okay, okay, I had to
I
ask.
was looking. I was like, well, it was weird because I woke up and the woman was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what happened?" She goes, "You crashed." But I was right side up, like, so I just thought I spun or maybe hit something, and I said, "Is the car okay?" And she goes, "Son, there's nothing left of the car." And then like I didn't look around yet, and then I realized there was nothing. Like it had the roof, but everything in my peripheral versus front was just open, and like the hood's gone and fucking everything. And I'm like looking around, and I'm like, "Holy fuck!" And then she goes, "Are you hurt?" And then like I was like, "I'm not hurt, but I should be." Right, and that's when I freaked out, and I grabbed my legs because the first thing I thought, I'm paralyzed, right? Because I was just sitting there with my Hans. Like when they got to me, I was just kind of like this. Like Jason at Shift Sector was like, "Man, I thought you fucking was dead." Yeah, I freaked out. And I started wiggling my toes, and I'm like, I grabbed myself and I punched myself in the leg.
The Ricky Bobby?
I was like, I have feeling in my leg. I'm good. And yeah, we went to the hospital. I was in and out in 2 hours. And
Really?
yeah, they're like, Marion, Indiana is a very small town. So like the doctor, I guess somehow everybody thought, because Life Flight came and they touched down, and by that time I was already awake, and I'm like, I'm good. Like, send that thing back. I'm not spending $75,000 on a fucking flight. So they took me in the ambulance, and I guess the medic in the ambulance had the video already and showed the doctor, and then the doctor was like, I don't know how you're okay, but you got some fucking angels watching over you. That looked like a bad fucking wreck. I was like, yeah. Yeah. So.
Yep.
So has anything changed? Did you lose, I don't know what the kids would call it these days. Do you still have the dog in you? I don't know.
Yeah, I love cars.
Okay.
Yeah, my wife's asked me to chill down a little bit.
Okay.
But
Because
yeah,
you have twins now.
we have twins now. I just got all my life insurance shit kind of settled. So now
Okay.
I'm kind of like, I want to get back into it again. But like the safety is going to be, like, you got to think. That car had a basic 10-point cage in it and a fucking, and a, what is it? Racecraft or Racecraft, right? Or what's the fucking seat company? Why am I forgetting the name? But whatever the big seat company is, Craft. It had one of their seats in it, and man, dude, I'm lucky to be alive from it. Yeah, I think like if you start looking at some of these cars, like if you look at Fabricio's, you can't see the fucking cage in it. It's a 12-point fully tucked cage. It goes underneath all the factory panels, and the door bars are removable. If you want to have your hybrid streetcar race car, there it is,
Yeah.
Not that there's no, it's not like, oh man, the cage is so intrusive. So like, when I go to, the drive-through, I don't want to be hitting my arm on a door bar, or like, my wife doesn't like crawling over this or seeing this fucking clanky. It's not there. You see a fucking reupholstered Alcantara fucking factory A-pillar bar.
I haven't seen the inside of your cars here, but like even when I've done numerous rides with Minneapolis Mopar, right? And it's like the car is beautiful on the inside. Like the cages are.
Well, look at that right now. Look
Is the
inside.
window open?
Yeah, one of the A-pillar bars is off, or one of the A-pillar covers is off, but you can see on the other side.
Yeah, people don't realize that once you start getting over that, 160 miles an hour, shit fucking changes drastically.
Yeah,
Like, even just looking out the window, shit's flying by so fast.
The seat was Race Tech.
Race Tech, yeah.
that
There you
what
go,
it was?
Race Tech, yeah.
I think that's what Nick runs in his Porsche. Yeah, man.
There is nothing intrusive about that.
No,
No,
I
it's
can't
not
tell there's
like-
one in there, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Imagine having a 10-point cage that you can't see.
Right.
That doesn't take any of it. Why would you not do that? And then what you do is you have your comfortable GTS seat or whatever seat you have for driving around, and then you have your proper, like, I think those Tillet carbon buckets just got FIA approval, like in the last year or so, but like people were putting those fucking carbon buckets in the cars, and it's like, dude, like there is nothing that says that seat can handle an impact.
Right.
You know, look at the drag guys. They have like literally this thin piece of carbon with a pour-in seat. You know, and you're strapped to a cage. You're not strapped to the seat. You know, it's the safety shit. Yeah, man. Like after I wrecked, I'm like, dude, like I have a Gen 3 that's going to be my next race car. The whole body's carbon. And it's super lightweight. Like it's gonna. My goal is like 2,800 pounds. It's gonna get eventually get a billet block. So I'm hoping 3,500 to 4,000 horsepower. But that car will be built like a proper race car, and I have zero desire to go fucking 60 to 130 it on the fucking highway or do any of that. Like, you want a really fast 60 to 130? Like, go buy a Porsche or a Lambo, like, you know, and then have a car that at 1,400 will do what a 2,800 horsepower, you know, Viper does, but it's not going to be as fun. Like, it loses its allure in, like, you know, the first 5 or 6 hits.
Well, like, even, like, I'm not butchering a number, but whatever UGR did, like, you saw, like,
2.3.
Was that what it was?
Yeah,
like
and then it went
1.8.
Yeah, and then it went, no, I think they went at 2.31.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is just insane. Like, do you ever see Vipers breaking into the 2s on the street?
Yeah, we did 2.84.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, I think I know Aaron posted a 2.7 something, but I don't think there was a video, or I don't know if it was just a Photoshop joke or whatever it is. But I don't know. But I'm almost 100% positive we have the only verified rear-wheel drive 2.8 something. You know, I know there's a bunch of 2.9s. I have a bunch of cars in the 2.9s. He's got a bunch of cars in the 2.9s. I don't. It also might have been Kratos, so I'm not sure. So, but I'm sure he's more than capable of pulling it off.
Do you guys post everything?
My customers do. You know, I don't have time to sit there and like dial in cars here to get these fucking draggy numbers that all these guys want. Because
the micro records.
Because here's the problem. It's gonna go somewhere else, and then I'm gonna have to spend double that time. Right. So what we do is you have different maps and you get the cars, and most of the people are beyond happy with it. Like that 2.84 was with Greg Blevins, and it took me like me and him 7 or 8 nights of I'm laying in bed on my laptop, fucking around with his torque tables. He's fucking around with tire pressures, and like, you know, imagine if every customer wanted to take up that much of my time for their street. Like, I didn't know, like, we have a couple of customers in Vegas, and like their draggies sucked, and we didn't know why. Well, the fucking streets are terrible there. Like
Dusty.
But not only that, they have a lot of oil in them because I guess they're asphalt for expansion and contraction of very cold to very hot. So you're just never going to get a good dragging number there. Like, yeah, maybe an all-wheel drive car will click something off, but like you have to be so on point with a rear-wheel drive car, you know, and then gearing comes into play. The big power cars that want to go to the half mile have a tall rear end. You're dead in the water at 60. Their sweet spot's like 73 in second gear. So if you're starting at 50, you have like, you know, to click that 60, yeah, you're moving, but it's not. It's like, you want me to swap out your ring and pinion just to get a fucking number, or do you want to go fast at the half mile?
It is a tough game.
Yeah.
You can't be amazing at everything.
No, that goes back to, you want a race car or do you want a street car?
Well, now you're even talking. Now you have a race car. What do you want it to do? Because now that's a very specific thing too, right?
Take your race car and subcategorize it.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because now you're talking digs, roll racing, 60 to 130, which I guess is basically roll racing.
And that's the great thing about the Lambo. You can have a very well-rounded car that can go drag race, that can go, you know, half mile, that can do 60 to 130s, and you can do it on fucking 20s. Like that's the cool thing. I'll be honest, I think a Porsche is a better car, but I think it's just I like driving Porsches better. But you know, same thing. Like that's a car that does everything very, very, very well. But you know, remember when stick shift drag racing was huge, like fucking 15 years ago? Everybody was like, I remember you had SW, Kevin, and like a few other people, Gary Java or something. They were all trying to get into the 7s with 6-speed cars. Like, I think that's way more impressive. Like, you have a Supra, a Viper, or I think, what was the other, you know, now you have, what was the Mustang guy that has this real fast stick shift car?
Ooh, I don't even know.
You know,
didn't follow
there's
it that much.
also Joel Grannis. That's like more of a full blown race car. Like back in the day, these were more street cars that they were. But to go sevens in a street car, right, with a manual transmission, not a dog box. They had clutches. You know, was fucking super impressive. So like you have all these guys that are like running low sevens in a Huracan. Granted, a low 7 is way different than a high 7. We all know that. That is a fucking big window there.
Yep.
But you're also talking 17 years later with people that were driving it with their foot. There was no, the Motec was out, but like when SW went 7s, that was on an AEM version 1.
A ton of the guests that we've had on the show have standalone ECUs, and if you've been waiting around to get the right deal for the right ECU, now's probably that time. You can go ahead and go to tunedbysean, SHAWN.com, and you can go ahead and use code Minnoxide to get 5% off on a good old Haltech ECU. Get all the accessories you need, and here's the best part, you can also get some free merch. Let's get back to the show.
Like AEM version 1, he had stock axles, a TRD diff, stock fucking trans, and a Tilton. Right, and he went a 7. I think it was a 791 at 189 miles an hour, a stick shift Supra. You know, like that's fucking flying. To this day, I think that's more impressive than some of what the other guys are doing now with dog boxes and carbon body panels and this and that and all that shit. You know, but you have a Supra and you have a car that goes low 7s. You know, but if you break the trans, it's $90-something thousand.
Who's someone that you respect in the industry? Or people, I guess.
Man, there's quite a few. You know, like I'm gonna go Tony Palo, Aaron, Kevin from Underground. Hefner is fucking huge. That dude is the nicest, angriest man you ever meet. He really is, but he is so fucking anal about I've never seen somebody with attention to detail that like is so passionate and angry about it at the same time. You know, he really like I think his quality and his brain is like, you know, above and beyond like what most people do. But Kevin at Underground has a fucking, I mean, on the business side of stuff, you're never gonna get better than him. I mean, look, how many shop owners you know that have multiple private jets?
Yeah.
You know, and that's I mean, they started with Mustangs here in Austin. You know, and they got into Vipers and they built what they have now. They're like their shop. I had a tech that left here to go work there, and he's like, it is. Everybody shows up 5 minutes early. You listen to the same fucking music. You have one job. Your job is to pull the fucking bumpers off and put them back on. So like that person that's pulling bumpers off and putting them back on is just going to get super fucking efficient.
Yeah.
At putting. It's more of an assembly line than
taking the Henry Ford approach to it.
Yeah, correct. You know, just make sure that's on. You know, Aaron, obviously, I respect him a lot. The guys over at AIM, I think they have a great shop. They do some really cool shit with the Porsches. Actually, that's the first time I've ever sent my car to another shop. Was I have my 997 at AIM.
What do you think makes all these guys, and this may include you as well in that group, what makes these guys spectacular at what they do?
So I think everybody kind of has their own little reasoning behind it. I'm gonna say Aaron and AIM they do most of everything in house. They build all their motors. Like I don't think AIM machine stuff, but they do all the assembly, you know, blueprinting, everything like that. Same thing. I know Aaron has that machine shop. I think it's like in the building. I think same deal with me. Like I'm gonna eventually take over the old man's. His name's Dennis. I call him old man, but Dennis's machine shop when he retires. And I think Aaron kind of, from what I gathered, had the same deal. But I think, you know, if I need a motor, I can go machine it myself. You know, if Aaron needs a motor, he can go machine it himself. If Hefner needs a motor, I'm pretty sure that dude can. He's got CNC capability there. I don't know if he hones his own cylinders or valve jobs his own heads or anything, but like he does all of his own CNC stuff there. He does all of his transmission builds there. Oh, Sean Ivey is another guy. I respect Sean Ivey, a metric fuck ton. He's just an OG. He builds all of his own motors, does all transmissions. You know, Kevin, like they build all their transmissions in house, but like they've had such a long lasting relationship with Proline. why not go to the best? Why not use the best that you don't have to now have that over your head? You know, like they get fucking, if they need 10 motors in a month, they're getting 10 motors in a month. Like if I need 10 motors in a month, I have to go hone those 10 motors myself, you know? So, you know, that's, and then either me or Tim assembles the short blocks and Jaime assembles the long blocks. We build all of our own transmissions in house. You know, it's just, I don't see too many people that can actually do that. I thought it would actually be really funny to go up to a lot of these shop owners at like TX2K, like with, you know, undisclosed video and ask them to go fucking mic out the Rolex wristband when they can't fucking say like, how do you build cars if you can't use a mic? You know, and I think there's a lot of that. I think there's a lot of fluff. You know, I think, you know, people throw this term in-house around so much, and then you start to really dig into it. But I think out of all the names I just listed, you can get the shop owners to go do whatever the fuck they need to do to build a car. You know, versus like, I'm just going to say this, and I don't care if he gets pissed off at me. I don't think Sissio could put a car together himself. I don't, you know, I don't think there's some fucking other shops out there that, you know, they hire everybody, they do things, you know, and that's fine. That's business. But like, would you rather take your car to a shop that the owner can go in the back and knows every last thing, or that, you know, he has to rely on his employees? So at the end of the day, and I heavily rely on my employees. My Jaime and Tim are probably two of the best fucking techs I've ever seen in my life. I'm very grateful to have them. Tim is a fucking animal, you know. I mean, his wiring's beautiful. He can build motors. He can fabricate like 80% of what I can, you know. But like he's not a fab guy, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But he can. Like, so you have, you know, Jaime can fucking put motors together, build transmissions, like. But we understand why all this stuff is the way it is, you know. Like, we don't just read a manual and like, oh, we're gonna torque this to that because that's what the manual said, or we're gonna, you know. I had a tech I just let go not too long ago, and he installed a AMS fuel system in a car, in a Lambo, and the car was having a fuel pressure issue, right? And it turned out to be nothing with the fuel system, right? But when you see a big drop in fuel pressure, especially the Huracans have a very complicated like crossover. So it's like saddlebags, and then there's like a balance tube on the bottom, but there's like a manifold in the fuel pump here. So you get fuel pressure that comes out of the passenger side tank, right? That goes to your fuel system. And then it pushes fuel to the other side that goes down to these little jets that create a venturi. So you're pushing fuel here, sucking it from here to put it back in this pump here. So like that one saddlebag always stays full, right? Well, he installed this system, and when we were trying to diag it, I'm like, so how does this? I've never installed it. Like, this is the first one. I don't know. I just read the directions. You didn't think that you're working on probably a $500,000 fucking toy to figure out why you're doing all this stuff? And I think that's you know, he eventually did not cut it here. You know, it was multiple things like that, and I let him go. But, I mean, you're reading directions on something, right? You should have an interest on how it works. That's why, you know, when I was little, I took my fucking VCR apart because or my dad's VCR, because I was interested in how it was actually a Betamax, but like how it worked. You don't know what Betamax is. It's
that might be a little bit before.
Yeah, way before.
They didn't last long.
It didn't last long. It was like a VHS but smaller.
Yeah.
It was like, remember the mini what are they called?
I don't know. There was Laserdisc too.
No, but they were in like a little fucking case, mini.
Yeah, they look like a little mini CD.
Yeah,
in there. I know what you're talking about.
Mini disc.
Yes.
But yeah, that was way before your time too.
This is the Boomer segment presented by Dan.
Well, there was Blu-ray and HD DVD too.
Yeah,
That was like a thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But yeah, like it's just like one of those things. I think a lot of people have like these techs, or like they're, you know, they rely on techs, right? Because they have a business, that they had an investor, or the investor hired some people because he saw how much money. And this is another, you know, I think another common theme I keep seeing is like, investor buys a fucking race car shop because he thinks, or starts a race car shop because he sees how much money he's spending, and then realizes there's not a lot of money in this.
No.
It costs a lot of money to go racing, you know? It just, that's it. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, this is not, like, goes back to if you don't have the car and the build in the bank to be just wiped out at all times, this is not your stick to the low power stuff, or have a stock car to go cruising, you know?
Yeah.
It's not your house of cards or whatever. It's I hate to say it, but that's the reality, or else you just get frustrated with shit, you know?
Are you doing a lot of work yourself as well then?
In the machine shop, yes. The last 2 months, I've been really tired with my twins. They had a sleep regression going on, and I think I was sleeping maybe 2 hours a night. But I'm kind of getting back into the swing of things. I was gonna try to get my Huracan ready for TX2K, and I'm like, I don't care.
What is the goal with that car, by the way? Do you have a certain power threshold, R&D?
I just want, R&D. I want 2,300 wheels. So we contacted a company called 3D Scan. They came and they scanned. Actually, this gentleman's wife's R8 and my Huracan and my Performante, and we're gonna have a street kit and a race kit. Race kit's big 80 mil plus, whatever. Same thing. The intercoolers are going to change, the mid-pipe changes or whatever.
What is your choice of turbo, by the way?
Zona.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the Vipers as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have Zona on everything. That's what I'm putting on the perf is twin Zona 8082s.
Okay.
So I won't even be close to maxing out that turbo. We tried them on a Viper, that Ralva Viper, and fucking dude, they were awesome. It spooled not much slower than a fucking 68. It's very hard to impress Colin, and Colin was impressed. So,
what are you most proud of in your career?
Being able to say I've never fucked anybody over. You know, I've taken it on the chin to make sure customers are happy. But in general, just our reputation. You know, I don't think you can find very much bad stuff about us, or besides I'm vocal. You know, or we like to have a good time after the races. So. But even that's calmed down now. You hit 40 and everything kind of just goes. The other day I woke up and my foot was swollen for no reason. I'm like, man, what this is, so. But no, I just, we run a good, clean business. That obviously I had kids late in life, so I'm not gonna be here to see a lot of what my kids, dude, when my kids are 40, I'll be 80. So it's I lost a lot of time. 10 years doesn't seem like a lot. Most people have kids at 20s, 30s, or whatever. Me and my wife had kids in our 40s, and it's my kids will always have a legacy. My dad, did this, and this, and we set world records, and I think that'll be pretty cool to. I hope they get into the car stuff and take over the legacy and do something even cooler with it. My wife's I'm always saying how I can't wait to get him into shifter karts and dirt bikes and everything, and you can see my wife's just saying I don't want my little baby to be hurt, or he doesn't need to do this, and and I can't wait. I think that's going to be the most fun. But
well, what's the other thing? Sit him in front of an Xbox and wrap him in bubble wrap. I mean, that's not fun either.
Bubble wrap's comfortable.
Yeah, I just
now we know how hair screw up.
But I think I think that I've run a good, clean business. Just basically we've kind of, I don't want to say wrote the book in Big Power, but we were part of the book, a good chapter in the book of
in the world of fast cars, your name will not be forgotten.
Exactly. I don't know if I'll ever be like a Carroll Shelby or some of these other guys that got factory.
Yeah, that's kind of next level.
That's next level shit. But yeah, I just, I hope that to, like I was saying, leave a legacy that, would make my kids proud.
Some of that's relationship too, right? They just happen to be met up with the right OEM people at the right time and doing the right. Carroll Shelby wasn't, he was doing some cool shit, but he was fast. That guy could fucking wheel, right?
Yes,
and then
correct.
It was you just get in. That guy was also a salesman.
Yes.
He sold a lot of bullshit. So.
But yeah, I just, it's one of those things. I hope. It's funny. Billy Stockman has a buddy. This guy Al. Al's one of the nastiest chassis guys you can ever think of, and he was helping us with the drag and drive stuff. When we were talking, he used to work. He was telling me how he got over to the Middle East in like, I guess like the early 2000s. Like they were all working in, well, he first started in Dubai and then went over to Qatar and worked for the Sheikh over there. But he said he used to work for Bob Norwood. I don't know if you know who that is.
The name sounds familiar.
Norwood used to take all these different 80s and 90s Ferrari chassis and like hodgepodge them together to build these like P4 cars, Ferrari P4. It looks like a Le Mans car, right?
Okay.
A real one's like $20-30 million or something. I could be wrong. It's very expensive, right? But he figured out that they would use like, the subframe from this car to do this car, and then he remade all the molds, and he would build these Ferrari P4 replicas, and it would have a VIN because they started off with another car with like some fucking twin turbo small block fucking Chevy motor in it or something. Norwood, but back to the important thing is Norwood is like in his 80s, and I was talking to Alan. I was like, oh yeah, dude, like, he's fucking 80 years old, can barely lift a cylinder head, but he's like, he's out there every day fucking around with something, like, he'll use the wall to bounce off back to like place the cylinder head on the car or something. But like, it's one of those things, like, it's like when you're into this shit, you can't stop it. I would love to just we used to have a hammock in the fucking in the front room for TX2K, and so we can take shifts and just work around the clock. I would love to just fucking go fucking nuts on that car and get it done for like that shit. Like, it's almost like some of my customers, Blake and the guy that owned Ralvo and some other, they're like, man, you give Calvo a deadline, fucking he's gonna get it done. It's like something about trying to make that deadline. He's like, you'll be done the night before the race, and you'll go like, beat your own personal best, win the event, this, that. He goes, but you're gonna get the car the night before the event. So yeah, it's I don't know. But that's like the one thing I don't think I'll ever, it's like once it's in your blood to tinker and fuck with shit, it doesn't matter what it is, you're just always going to fuck with shit. So yeah. I'm hoping, I get some good years with my kids to fuck with shit with them.
What's the hardest thing you've had to overcome?
I'm going to say the boundaries of friends and customers. That's a big one, and the word no, learning how to use no, and just not feeling bad about it. That's, I think, like the two most important things that I failed at, like business wise, is I always would hook friends up, and then they or employees that turn into friends. I've had them come and go. I've had them, fuck me over. I've had, customers that are my good friends, that their wives are good friends. I do all this work, and always a homie hookup, and then one little thing and they're motherfucking you, or their car doesn't make it to an event, and it's like, dude, it didn't make it to 1.5 mile event, and now you want to talk a bunch of shit or this or that, like for what, after I've done all this shit for you, so that's like one of the things I'm having to learn. Business is business, friends is friends, and then you like that guy in Dallas was telling me, he's like, Aaron's hookup for me is he gets my shit done first, but I pay full pop. Yeah,
it's funny how sometimes I have to think, like, are they vindictive like that, or you think they just like, I have no fucking clue that I'm being like that?
No, I think some people just fucking will take advantage.
Yeah.
Like blindly take advantage. It's human nature.
Yeah.
To try to get what they want or get what they can out of you, But yeah, I have some really fucking good lifelong friends from this business. It's taught me a lot about human nature, let's put it like that. Yeah. Same thing, other shops, you help other shops out, and then fucking find out that they're talking shit behind your back, and I don't know.
You can get some real tight relationships out of this, though. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know what it's like to be in a bowling league or anything like that, but like, I don't know if they're like that either. But this car thing is like, this fucking
dude. I've made some very lifelong friends. Yeah. It's me and Fabricio have been fucking building that car going on 10 years.
Shit, really?
Yeah, wow. Racing it. It's always a constant.
But it's still, that's a long relationship.
That's a long relationship. Blake Weaver was telling me the other day, he goes, this is the longest I've ever owned a car. It's been like 3 or 4 years, and he goes, the camaraderie we have and the good times we have going racing and like, you know, doing business with you has been nothing but easy, you know? It just, I wish I could find more techs to that I could, you know, there's too much work in here for 3 people or 4 people. Over the last 2 years, I've gone through multiple fab guys. I've gone through multiple techs. They either fuck everything up, are on their phones, or fucking take 2 days to pull a fucking transmission, or you train them, teach them. They're good employees, and you know they go to the next shop that they've pitched themselves that they're way better than they really are, you know, for more money. And it's like, you know, like the younger generations are supposed to come in and take the workload off the older generations, right? And I don't see that happening in every industry across the board. You know, I was talking to Jason at Shift Sector, and his son was asking him, he's like, what should I do to make money in life like you, Dad? And he goes, be a plumber. And he goes, why? And he goes, because nobody's going to want to do blue collar work anymore. And when it's Thanksgiving and you can fix their fucking sink or their dishwasher and this and that and charge them $2 fucking grand, you know, there's going to be nobody else to fucking do it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the one thing I think that our country is lacking is the trades are down because everybody wants to be a TikTok star or this or that or
a podcaster.
Or podcast. No, but like,
no, but it's true.
But it's true. You know,
Yeah.
how many of all the people make it? You know, and then you have now like OnlyFans. Girls are making like $4 or $5 million a month, like shaking their ass in front of a fucking camera. Like,
Is this you announcing only Calvo, by the way?
yeah, only Calvo, only Calvo. But you know, people see these girls on Instagram driving G-Wagons and flying to Dubai. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's a very small percentage. And it's like, you know, or I see this thing now all the time, these life coaches or business coaches. And like, the only thing they're coaching you, it's a fucking Ponzi scheme, right? The only thing they're coaching you is to coach other people. And then, you know, you've done your coaching, they've made their money. And it's funny. I follow this one page called Baller Busters. And it is fucking, it
sounds hilarious.
Oh, dude, you can waste a lot of time on it. But it's like all these fucking Ponzi scheme people that are like trying to basically just sell their coaching programs and like say how they're like, this one dude was saying, he goes, $5 million? That ain't shit. I make that a week. I'll throw that. $5 million is a massive amount of money even to a fucking billionaire. Okay, I have billionaire customers. $5 million, somebody that has $5 million never says $5 million isn't fucking shit. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, but like the younger generation see this and they fucking like, they think it's normal. They think it's going to find something, or they think, you know, they're going to be the next big fucking stockbroker because they took some course. They're always looking for the easy way out instead of hard work.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's hopefully, you know, what's that saying? Like, good times create, you know, weak men create bad times create strong men.
Yep.
Like, hopefully we're kind of re-seeing that circle of life with stuff, and, you know, we can get some, because the younger generations of kids today are a bunch of fucking morons.
No, I've built my entire everything I have off of work ethic alone.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to raise my kids the same way. So
That's exactly, I tell my wife all the time, I said, both those kids when they're 4 or 5 years old are going to start coming here helping dad on the weekends, whether it's mop. My wife's like, you are not going to make my babies mop the floor. I'm like, no, they're going to fucking clean my tools. They're going to fucking, you know, they want all this cool shit in life and do everything. They're going to fucking, you know, work hard.
Yeah.
Oh, my wife goes nuts sometimes at home because she's doing all this stuff, and I'll come home from work. I was like, "You got 4 fucking slaves living here. Like, let's put them to work, dude."
So,
Well, there goes social services, Dan.
Yeah, I don't care. Show up.
but yeah, fucking
Come and take them.
You ask them where they want to go. You know, my kids are also spoiled.
That's it.
Dude.
Fucking like I can't wait for my kids to like actually just even walk. I'll be happy just so I don't have to fucking carry them everywhere.
When you get rid of that car seat where you're carrying that son of a bitch
dude,
around,
I think that's why my tennis elbow started coming back. And I had to start wearing that strap the other day. And I think it's holding one like this and this, or the bottle up here. It's like, fuck, man, there's 2 of them.
Yeah.
You know, they like overpower you. So, but yeah, let's wrap it up.
Yeah,
before
let's
my
pop
wife
the
kills-
usual 3 and get you going.
Okay,
All
cool.
right.
Yeah.
Hey, at the end of every episode, we like to ask our guests to pick 3 cars. I need a track car, a show car, and a daily driver. You have an unlimited budget. Build wherever you want. Weld 2 cars together, whatever you want.
Fuck, man.
I know this. I feel like this is gonna be a weird one for you. I don't know.
Daily driver?
Yeah.
Dude, I think I would just fucking take an S-Class. Like an S63 AMG or something. Like fucking something.
On Forgiatos, like the one we saw the other day?
No.
No? Not 4Gs?
Stock, bro, just stock. Leave it alone.
Okay.
Stock. That's how you know you're getting old.
Yeah.
Track car? Like road
Any kind of
course?
track,
Whatever you
pick
want.
the track.
Oh, man. Fuck, I would love to have Mark Mickey's Pro Mod. That thing, I think it went like fucking hit like 270 something in the fucking quarter mile. And then if you wanted another track car like to go around turns, man, Ferris has this Corvette that's just absolutely, you know the one I'm talking
Yeah.
about, that wide body. That
I reached out to him. I'd love to get that dude on the
yeah,
show.
so we did the transmission in that. I would
Okay.
fucking love to drive that thing. I think it's just fucking cool.
So would you choose that or the Pro Mod?
Can I have both?
No.
Oh,
I make
doesn't
people
let
choose,
anybody,
yeah. You're not going to be the first to get away.
probably that.
The Ferris's car?
Ferris car, yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet, and then show car.
Show car, Pagani's Honda F Roadster.
That's that. Well, perfect, man. Where can everybody find you?
Calvo Motorsports Instagram, fucking, or Calvo Motorsports Facebook group, or
Sweet.
page.
Well, Antonio, thank you for making this happen.
Thanks
Glad
for
we could make
coming
this
out,
happen.
guys.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
It's been great.
Yeah, fucking awesome.
Cool. Dan, thanks for existing, and we'll see y'all next time.
See you guys.
As always, guys, be sure to check out all of our sponsors. They are what make this show possible. It allows us to travel and have some awesome guests on the show. So whether it's HP Academy, Tuned by Sean, or Hayes Performance, all these guys have awesome services, products, everything in between. So be sure to check them out. All the codes are in the show note description or on my Instagram or wherever else I've mentioned it in the show. So be sure to check it out, and we'll see you all next time.